So I don't know about any of you, but I've had some free time on my hands recently. And one of the ways I decided to spend some of that free time was showing my parents some of my favorite shows to show them that it's all, just all nonsense that I watch. And one of the things I decided to show them was my favorite show of all time, Avatar The Last Airbender. They enjoyed it, but not as much as I hoped. They'd forget certain plot points and key characters, and at some points I found them confusing two characters for each other. They did have their own unique highlights though. For example, at one point my dad said this.
I do like you. A lot. But we can't be together. And not for the reason you think. It's because I'm engaged.
So is that like his grandmother from another dimension? What? No! Where the hell did that come from?
And this isn't necessarily on the same level, but here's one of my mum's highlights.
I can't.
I'm sorry.
Alright, here's a cool detail. Do you know why he couldn't kiss her there? 'Cause he's gay? 'Cause he's gay? He's shown interest in women in the past. Well, he might have changed his mind.
If you want to hear any more highlights, I got a Twitter thread of them below. So anyways, back to the point. So when the show wrapped up, I decided to give them a break for them to detox or whatever with their own shows. And that break kind of stretched on a bit for the next few months. So, since it had been a long time since they watched the show, and given their track record when they were actually watching the show, I decided to give them a PowerPoint presentation in order to remind them what exactly happened in the show, as well as fill in a few blanks between the series. And I decided to record said PowerPoint presentation for any potential future use, and on the off chance that any of you out there wanted to give a refresher course to a loved one. So without any further ado, here it is. Okay, welcome to Avatar The Last Recap. Okay, so basically I'm just gonna combine things that were in the show and things that were revealed in other media and stuff like that. So if you don't remember one thing, chances are it wasn't said in the show, but chances are it was in the show and you just don't remember. So anyways, setting. Avatar takes place in a world that revolves around bending. So naturally, the first question is, what is bending? Bending is the ability to manipulate one of the four elements: water, earth, fire, and air. Each form of bending is based on a different style of kung fu from our world, as well as a thing from inside the show itself. Water bending. Water is the element of change. In real life, it's based on Tai Chi, but in the show, it's based off the moon and how it controls the tides. As such, waterbenders get stronger when the moon is out, particularly when it's full. They're typically found in either the Northern Water Tribe, located in the North Pole, or the Southern Water Tribe, located in the South Pole. But there are different people from around the world who can waterbend, like the Swamp Benders for instance, and as such, they all have their own unique style of waterbending. Earthbending. Earth is the element of substance. It's based on Hungar, with a few exceptions, but in the show it's based off the movements of the Badger Moles because they have the ability to move Earth. Earthbenders can be found in the Earth Kingdom. Firebending. Fire is the element of power. It's based on Northern Shaolin Kung Fu, but in the show it's based off the movements of dragons. Firebenders get stronger during the day, and as such weaker at night. Firebenders can be found in the Fire Nation, and depending on how you look at it, they're the only ones who can create their own element if you're not counting sweating for waterbenders or breathing for airbenders. They breathe in and they can produce their fire with their own attacks. Speaking of airbending, air is the element of freedom. It's based on Bagua Zhang, but in the show it's based off the Sky Bison, like Appa. Airbenders are members of the Air Nomads. Bending factions. Now, just because there's one element here, one element there, one element there, that doesn't mean it's limited just to that. For example, firebenders can generate lightning like Iroh's doing right there, but they could also cause explosions with their minds. Earthbenders can control sand and metal, locate someone through vibrations in the ground, and detect if someone is lying. Waterbenders can heal people, control plants, and manipulate someone's blood if the moon is full. Non-benders. They're people like you! They are born to all nations, so just because they're from the Fire Nation doesn't mean they're all firebenders, alright? They're skilled in things like inventing, sword fighting, and chi blocking, like Ty Lee there. Hybrid animals. I just include it's initially for like because to point out that there's weird animals like the badgermoles there. They're the ones that were the quote original earthbenders. But then I remembered that the lion turtles were a thing, and they're really important. They're like ancient beings that existed before the time of the Avatar, and they can like bestow powers onto people and whatnot.
Just realised that's a person there. It's a sense of scale.
Yeah. One more important thing. There are spirits. Spirits are like the gods of the universe. They're responsible for different things. For example, like there's the moon spirit and the ocean spirit. There are kind spirits and there are dark spirits. And kind spirits can become dark spirits if they're agitated. For example, the Heibai there, who was the guardian of a forest that got burnt down by the Fire Nation, and then he went from like a nice panda to that thing. The spirit world, that's where all the spirits are from. It's not the afterlife. It's a completely different thing. You can meditate into it, but you won't be able to bend there if you do that. There are certain points in the human world that have a stronger connection to the spirit world, and as such you can like feel more spiritual energy, and you're more likely to meditate into the spirit world from there. Now I know what you're probably thinking. Who is the Avatar? If you were thinking that, then you really need this.
What are you thinking?
The Avatar. The Avatar is the only person born in once in a generation who can bend all four elements. They are the bridge between the human and the spirit realms. They make sure all four nations keep the peace. The Avatar can talk to the spirits of their predecessors, as well as enter a godlike state in which they can access the powers of all those who came before them. But if they are killed in this state, then the entire cycle will end. Known avatars. Avatar Yang Chen. She apparently didn't focus too much on the spirit realm during her reign, and instead focused on the human realm. Now guess how old she was when she died?
300.
Dad?
400.
She died at 345, so you're right. You're both right, you're around the same ballpark. Avatar Kuruk. He's the guy who had his girlfriend's face stolen by Cole the Face Dealer. Much like me, he was publicly known for not doing much. But secretly he defended the human world from dark spirits. And because of that, he had like a lot of stress due to like taking on that job by himself. And he died at the ripe old age of 33.
3, 4, 5.
Avatar Kyoshi. She was abandoned by her parents at birth, and she started off life as a servant due to like a mix-up due to like someone getting mistaken to the Avatar, mistaken as the Avatar in their early life, and it's a whole thing. Mm-hmm. She became the leader of a group of thieves at a young age, and she was a bisexual badass. She was so powerful that she created an island by removing an entire landmass from the Earth Kingdom, which inadvertently killed this guy called Chin the Conqueror. She founded a group of all-female warriors known as the Kyoshi Warriors. And she founded the Dai Li, who are like the secret police of the Earth Kingdom. And she died at the ripe old age of 230. Avatar Roku. Not much is known about what he did, except one thing we'll get into. And he died at 70. I bet that he was really envious about the last two girls in this list. But then everything changed when...
The season ended?
No, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Why did they attack? Well, Fire Lord Sozin looked upon his nation's prosperity and saw it as a sign that he should expand it worldwide. He asked his best buddy, Avatar Roku, seen there in his younger days, to help him out. But Roku said no, the nations must remain separate because he's a stickler for tradition, apparently. This ruined their friendship. And Roku's wedding day, which was a weird time to ask him that. Sozin said, screw you! Sozin formed a colony in the Earth Kingdom some years later. Roku kicked his ass and warned him not to do it again.
See that wedding thing?
Yeah.
If I can interject. It may have some sort of reference to the mafia world because there's a rule that if you ask the Don for a favour on his daughter's wedding,
Yeah.
then he can't refuse you.
Well, I don't know about that, seeing how that's technically the Dawn asking you for a favour, but anyways.
You know, you can go to the Don and ask the Don for a favour. What if it's his daughter's wedding?
Yeah, but I'm saying that in this scenario, the Fire Lord is the Dawn in this scenario. So anyways, stuffing out a flame. Years later, a volcano erupts on Roku's island. Roku decided to fight it. For some reason. I guess he was like trying to save as much of his home as he could, but like it's a weird thing to do to fight a volcano. Sozin helps him. Roku gets overwhelmed by the fumes, and Sozin leaves him to die because like without Roku, he could like take over the world. That results in Roku getting reincarnated as Aang. He's the prodigy airbender who was like the youngest airbender to ever receive to get his tattoos and become a master because like he created that air orb he was always riding on. He was a goofball, but he was told that he was the Avatar at 12 when you're supposed to tell the Avatar that the Avatar when they're 16 because there was a war coming, for crying out loud. They had no time to wait until he was 16. He was overwhelmed by the changes in his responsibility and he ran away from home on his air bison, Appa, and then he got frozen in an iceberg when he got caught up in a storm. The 100-Year War. Sozin declares war. He uses the power of a comet, which comes every 100 years, to attack the other nations, during which the rest of the airbenders are wiped out. Sozin starts the tradition of hunting dragons because, like, since they're the original firebenders, if you kill a dragon, then you're better than the original until you receive the title of dragon. Sozin bans gay marriage. So, it's a dick move there, Sozin. Sozin spends the rest of his life trying to find Aang because like he didn't find him when he killed all the other airbenders, and like he's the only one who'd stand against his take over the world thing. And then Sozin dies at 82. But the Fire Nation continues his goal, starting with Fire Lord Azulon. He became the Fire Lord when he was 20, and he was a very successful military leader. But he cared more about victory than his people, so like this is where like the whole maybe we can share our prosperity with the rest of the world starts to get a bit more corrupted as years goes on because like the ideology gets more and more evil. He started the raids in the Southern Water Tribe in an attempt to eradicate all the waterbenders there. He attempted to conquer Ba Sing Se, which is the capital of the Earth Kingdom. Azulon had 2 sons. Iroh, the kind-hearted, tea-loving, goofy warrior, and Ozai, the ruthless, callous, power-hungry monster. Iroh had a son named Lu Ten, and he found the last 2 dragons, but he doesn't kill them. Instead, they like they were like, "Hey, you're a great firebender. We're going to teach you the secret of firebending." Arranged marriage. Azulon was then advised by the Fire Sages to marry Roku's descendant Ursa to Ozai. And they had 2 kids, Zuko and Azula, named after Azulon. Zuko was favoured by his loving mother, but despised by his father for being weak. And Azula was a firebending prodigy who was respected by Ozai but feared by her mother. Meanwhile, in the Southern Water Tribe, there are 2 siblings, Sokka and Katara. Katara is the only waterbender left in the South Pole. The Fire Nation learns this, but Katara's mother Kaya protects her by pretending that she's the last waterbender, and is killed as a result. Their father, Hakoda, leaves to go fight in the war, leaving Sokka and Katara in the care of their grandmother Kana. You might remember Kana as Gran. Family struggles. Iroh's son dies trying to conquer Ba Sing Se, so he surrenders. Ozai tries to take Iroh's place as the heir to the throne.
Hang on, does he die or surrender?
Surrenders. Lu Ten dies, but Iroh gets all bummed out by it, so he's like, I can't fight anymore, my son's died.
Right, oh yeah.
Ozai tries to take his heir to the throne because Iroh has no heir, and Azulon orders Ozai to kill Zuko as punishment for even suggesting such a thing. Ozai's cool with this, but Ursa isn't. Ursa then makes a deal with Ozai to help poison Azulon and manipulates his way onto the throne in exchange for Zuko's life. Azulon dies at 95, and Ursa gets banished as a result, so there's thanks for helping you ascend the throne. See, like, what happened here was, like, she was like, I can help you poison Azulon, and he was just like, alright, well then you're gonna face punishment as a result. Okay, let me take the kids. Oh no, they're my insurance in case you try to come back. So I'm gonna keep the kids, but you get the hell out of here. Ozai is then crowned Fire Lord. Zuko's pain. Zuko listens in on a war meeting and speaks out against a plan to like sacrifice the newbie soldiers in order to like help win a battle. Ozai then forces Zuko to fight him in an Agni Kai for disrespecting him in his war room. Zuko refuses to fight and is burned as punishment. Zuko is then sent on a wild goose chase to capture the Avatar to regain his honor. Okay, it's like Ozai's a dick like that. And that leads us into the first season. Friends new and old. Katara and Sokka discover Aang and they agree to help him travel to the North Pole to learn waterbending. Zuko learns this and starts to chase them. They take a pit stop to the Southern Air Temple, which is where Aang grew up, and they discover the corpse of Aang's mentor Gyatso. But hey, Aang gets a pet lemur named Momo! 'Cause Appa wasn't enough, I guess. Along the way, they meet people like the Kyoshi warrior Suki, Aang's old friend Bumi, the morally grey Jet, and a very unlucky cabbage merchant. The spirit of Roku gets in contact with Aang and warns him that the comet that Sozin used to kill all the airbenders is coming back and Ozai will use it to end the war. First enemy. Hearing that the Avatar has returned, the Fire Nation dispatches Admiral Zhao to track him down. Because again, Ozai doesn't actually want Zuko to come back. Zuko becomes a figure known as the Blue Spirit to prevent him from capturing Aang. Backfire. The gang, get it, meets Zhong Zhong, a deserter from the Fire Nation and Zhao's teacher. Aang asks him to teach him firebender, but he refuses because like, there's a whole thing with the order you're supposed to learn the elements, only for Roku to convince him otherwise. This doesn't end well, and Aang accidentally burns Katara. Katara learns that she can heal people, which is a completely different thing to something that's coming up, just so you know. Looming threat. They then meet a mechanist who never got a name, who's been forced to help the Fire Nation by building weapons for them.
What's a mechanist?
It's a person who makes machines.
A mechanic.
Yeah, a mechanist.
Mechanic repairs when he doesn't make them.
They use his latest weapon, a balloon, to thwart the Fire Nation, but the Fire Nation collect the wreckage of the balloon and begin to reverse engineer it. Cold reception. They make it to the Northern Water Tribe, where they meet Master Paku and Princess Yue. Paku refuses to teach Katara because she's a girl, because it's against the rules in the Northern Water Tribe for women to learn how to fight. And to try and prove him wrong, Katara fights him, but she ends up losing. Paku then discovers that Katara is his ex-fiance's granddaughter, who he ended up pushing away due to his sexist beliefs. And then she fled to the Southern Water Tribe, which is where she met Hakoda's father. And to make up for this fact, he agrees to train Katara. Sokka and Yue fall in love, but they can't be together for political reasons. Zhao then attempts to kill Zuko by hiring a bunch of pirates to blow up his ship, but he survives. Siege of the North. Iroh pretends to team up with Zhao and they invade the North Pole. Zuko captures Aang but nearly freezes to death because Aang's like meditating into the spirit world at this point. Zhao then kills the moon spirit, which weakens the waterbenders because they get their powers from the moon. Aang and the ocean spirit then fuse and fight the Fire Nation. Yue then fuses with the moon spirit and takes on its role. Zhao and Zuko fight, but Zhao gets dragged into the spirit world by the ocean spirit. So yeah, Sokka's first girlfriend turned into the moon.
That's rough, buddy.
That's rough, buddy. Season 2. Trials and Tribulations. Katara receives a special healing water from the North Pole, which was comes with like a special spirit lagoon. Ozai then dispatches Azula to track down the Avatar, and she recruits her friends Mai and Ty Lee. Zuko and Iroh then go on the run after being declared a bunch of traitors by the Fire Nation. And Aang tries to recruit his friend Bumi to be his earthbending teacher, but he's imprisoned by the Fire Nation at the moment, so he can't really do that. They then meet Toph Beifong, who's the blind earthbending prodigy who Aang saw in a vision while they were traversing through like a spiritual swamp. And she runs away from home to become Aang's earthbending teacher, which sets off this whole thing with her overbearing parents. Iroh teaches Zuko how to redirect lightning. Failed expedition. The group meet the professor who tells them about a library. They visit it and meet Wang Shi Tong, he who knows 10,000 things, who's the big owl there. They find out that there's an eclipse coming and plan to attack the Fire Nation during it because they lose their powers during an eclipse. Wang Shi Tong is enraged by this because nobody visits his library anymore if it doesn't involve trying to fight somebody. And he buries the library. They escape but leave the professor behind. During this, Appa gets kidnapped.
Would they bury it in the sand?
Yeah. Corruption and complacency. They reunite with Suki and she and Sokka become a couple, but then she like dips off to fight in the war. They make it to Ba Sing Se and they defeat a giant Fire Nation drill that's trying to puncture the outer walls. Zuko and Iroh then sneak into Ba Sing Se with the help of Iroh's friends because he's at some point in the past he joined a secret organization called the Order of the White Lotus. And Zuko fights with Jet, but who then gets captured by the Dai Li, who's like those hat people there. Remember the secret police that Kyoshi made? The gang then discover that the Earth King doesn't know that there's a war going on because no one's told them that there's a war going on. And that Ba Sing Se is actually controlled by the Dai Li under the command of this guy called Long Fang. Who, funny enough, is voiced by Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, yeah.
So, what's the best thing to do after discovering a conspiracy? Have a day off! Katara and Toph have a spa day, Aang builds a zoo, Sokka has an epic haiku battle, Zuko has a date, Momo misses Appa, and Iroh mourns his son.
Leaves from the vine.
So after all that, they discover that Jet has been brainwashed with the Dai Li, and Long Fang has captured Appa. They go to a place called Lake Laogai and discover the Dai Li's brainwashing operation, and they see all these poor people who are brainwashed to think that they're the same person. They then fight Long Fang, and Jet dies as a result. Meanwhile, Zuko finds Appa, but Iroh convinces him to give up capturing the Avatar because you gotta figure out your own destiny, dude. Zuko lets Appa go and abandons the blue spirit persona. So the gang have had enough. They storm the castle and convince the king there's a war going on. They arrest Long Fang and begin to prepare for the war. Zuko begins to happily settle into his new life, and Iroh gets his own tea shop. Aang leaves to go meet a guru in order to train his avatar powers, and Sokka goes to meet up with his dad. But then things get bad. Azula and co sneak in by pretending to be Suki and co, and Toph gets captured by some people who were hired by her parents. Azula teams up with Long Fang and they take over Ba Sing Se, during which she captures Katara and Zuko. But then Azula outplays Long Fang and takes over the Dai Li, so now she's in charge. The Fire Nation strikes back. See what I did there? Aang senses Katara's in trouble and abandons his training. Toph then discovers metal bending by sensing that there's a bunch of earth fragments in the cage that she's being held in. Aang then regroups with Sokka and Toph, and they team up with Iroh to rescue Katara and Zuko. But then Zuko teams up with Azula because she's like, come on, you can please Dad by killing the Avatar right now because he's needed like that. And Aang masters the Avatar state, but is nearly killed by Azula, hence this whole stitch. And then Iroh gets arrested. Katara then saves Aang with the magic spirit water, so they no longer have the magic spirit water. But he's out for the next few months. So book 3, enemies on the inside. Aang recovers from his whole nearly dying thing, but can't ever enter the Avatar state now. They sneak into the Fire Nation disguised as citizens. Zuko starts dating May, just by the by. Ozai welcomes Zuko back into the Fire Nation because Azula told him that Zuko was the one who killed the Avatar, but Zuko starts to suspect that Aang might still be alive because Katara told him about the magic spirit water, and he hires a combustion bender to track them down. Sokka gets trained by a sword master named Pian Dao, and Zuko then starts to have a crisis of consciousness after discovering that he's a descendant of Avatar Roku. And then Katara gets trained by Hama down there, who's like a former friend of her grandmother, who's discovered bloodbending, which is just the worst. The day of Black Sun, the invasion happens. It doesn't go well because the Earth King told Azula that it was going to happen, and then didn't tell anyone that he told her. So yeah, so you screw you, Earth King. Zuko breaks up with May via letter, which is just a jerk move. And Zuko confronts Ozai about the whole Fire Nation's deal. And then Iroh breaks himself out of prison by getting ripped. The Fire Nation reveals their blimps to the world, and most of the soldiers get captured. So yeah, not a good day. Zuko then departs to join the gang.
Hello, Zuko here.
Zuko meets up with a gang at the Western Air Temple. They don't believe that he's betrayed the Fire Nation, probably because he mentions the fact that he hired Combustion Man, or Sparky Boom Man as he was originally called. But Zuko helps the gang fight Combustion Man, and Sokka defeats him by throwing his boomerang at the center of his forehead, causing him to lose focus and blow himself up. Zuko's day trips. Zuko helps the gang out. He discovers the last two dragons with Aang, and they learn the secrets of firebending from them. He helps Sokka break Hakoda and Suki out of prison, and he helps Katara track down the man who killed her mother, but she can't bring herself to kill him. Because, he's too sad and she's not that kind of person. No day trip for Toph.
She was funny.
Yeah. In between all this, May and Ty Lee betray Azula, and she doesn't take it very well. She locks them up, and then she begins to spiral because they were the only friends she ever had, and she's just not had the best childhood. Sozin's Comet. Zuko reveals that Ozai plans to burn down the entire Earth Kingdom when the comet comes. Aang then has a crisis of morality because he was raised to be a pacifist, and now he has to kill a dude. But then Aang disappears. And Ozai crowns himself the Phoenix King and declares Azula the Fire Lord in his place. Azula then begins to lose her grasp on sanity because Ozai just made her end goal irrelevant. Final preparations. Aang discovers a lion turtle and learns energy bending from him. Zuko discovers that Iroh has gathered all the members of the Order of the White Lotus, including Pakku, Zhong Zhong, Piandao, and Bumi, and they plan to retake Ba Sing Se. Wanted to help out, Sokka, Toph, and Suki go to take out the blimps, and Zuko and Katara go to stop Azula's coronation. Final battles. Aang takes on Ozai, but he can't bring himself to kill him. Sokka, Toph, and Suki take out the blimps, and Zuko faces Azula. The Order of the White Lotus retake Ba Sing Se, but Azula finally snaps and takes out Zuko. Katara defeats Azula and heals Zuko, which is completely different from the magic water thing. Aang reawakens his avatar state by getting a good smack in the back and goes full badass mode, as we can see here. And he finally defeats Ozai and takes away his firebending, so that's no longer an issue. Happily ever afters. Zuko and May get back together, and Zuko is crowned Fire Lord. Ozai is imprisoned and Azula is chucked in a mental asylum. Ty Lee joins the Kyoshi Warriors and teaches them chi blocking, and Iroh gets his own tea shop. Hooray! And Aang and Katara get together. But wait, there's more! I wanted to get the audio for that, but I couldn't find it. The comics. Now here's the thing, I'm not going to give you the summary for all of these, because quite frankly that would take forever, so I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes version. So, the Fire Nation colonies don't want to leave because they've been there for 100 years, and where else are they going to go? So they managed to let the people stay. The pressure of being Fire Lord gets to Zuko, and May breaks up with him. Man, they just can't catch a break, can they? Zuko finds his mother, who had her face replaced by a spirit and her former lives forgotten. And she lived with her ex-boyfriend before she married Ozai. It was a whole thing, both of which are undone. Azula escapes. By the way, she did this thing where she tried to manipulate Zuko from behind the scenes to be the Fire Lord that she thought that he was meant to be. But that hasn't really come up again recently, so I'm just going to mention that. Aang discovers a group of fangirls who live out the life of being airbenders without actually being airbenders, and he's initially cool with them, but then he discovers that some of them have tattooed hills, which is like a big thing in his culture. Like I worked hard to like get these tattoos, and you just like get it for the fun of it. But then he like gets over that, and he like makes up an official group known as the Air Acolytes. The Cabbage Man gets into technology. I kid you not, that's important. Toph makes up with her dad, who, by the way, has been like going around teaching metal bending to people. And there's unrest between the northern and southern water tribes because the south believes that the north is trying to take away their culture. But the main point is, the colonies begin to prosper. One of the most prosperous ones was this place called Cranefish Town. After an incident where benders tried to suppress non-benders, which was a whole thing, Suki helps establish a police force of chi blockers. The gang helped establish it as an example of cohabitation between the nations, and at some point Toph takes over as chief of police and the police force becomes metal benders. And eventually the town grows so big it is renamed Republic City. Dust in the Wind. Aang and Katara get married. They have 3 children. Bumi, named after Aang's friend, Kaya, named after Katara's mother, and Tenzin, who's just Tenzin. I would have thought that they would have named him Gyatso after his master, but see now they were on a name thingy, but whatever. Bumi is a non-bender, Kaya is a waterbender, and Tenzin's an airbender. At some point, Aang discovers a herd of sky bison living in the wild because like they thought that Appa was the last one, but apparently not. But eventually, Aang gets weak because he's technically 165 and he used up a lot of energy while he was frozen in an iceberg, and he dies. The Order of the White Lotus, who are no longer a secret society because how are you going to be a secret society when he helped end the war? They begin to search for Aang's reincarnation. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I did have a section to allow them to ask any questions that they had, but they seemed to understand it all. Either that or they just wanted to get the presentation over with. So yeah, that's pretty much the video. Thanks for watching, and feel free to send this to any loved one that you want to give a refresher course to. So with all that, take care.